Get ready, because we're going to tear you up.
We're ranking ways to get into InfoSec on this glass of OJ. Hey, and it's good to see you after so long. It's been a while since I've posted, and have a wonderful idea from a friend that everyone here should be very familiar with now. It's their 4th episode. DNS Princess is here. And they had a great idea for an episode, and so they've come down to record a glass of OJ. And what was the topic you have in mind today?
We're doing a tier list, which is where we're ranking topics based on our opinions of them.
All right.
And our main topic is how to get into InfoSec.
Ooh, there's a lot of opinions online about that.
Yes, and I like it because we have lots of opinions.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so here's how it's going to work.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce the topic to you, and then you're going to grade it.
Okay. Sounds simple enough.
Like A, B, C, D, F, and if it's super awesome, S tier.
Right.
Like the best is S tier. And we're gonna talk about them one by one.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So let's start off with something super simple, okay? How do you feel about using books, like No Starch Press books, as an intro to InfoSec?
That's interesting. No Starch does pride themselves specifically on kind of, putting together a book on a particular topic that anybody could just jump into and begin learning or develop on top of the skills they already have. The problem is a lot of books out there are not general enough. They are hyper-specific to a particular technology, a skill. Here's how to get into malware reverse engineering. Okay, it's great if you want to specifically do malware reverse engineering, that particular skill. In order to really get into InfoSec, I feel, you would have to buy kind of a small library of books, be it from O'Reilly or Wiley or No Starch or several other book manufacturers. It would take a while. And then, of course, then you've got certification books, which I'm sure certs will come into this at some point. But there's also cert books and a lot of other types of manuals and things that you could get. So although great knowledge is had in books, very great reference material can be a really good read, especially if there's a topic you're specifically wanting to deep dive into. I don't really think you can just read books and get into InfoSec. I would say, based on just that itself, I would probably say more towards D tier.
Okay.
Helpful still, but definitely needs a lot of help from some of the other items I'm sure we're going to discuss on this list.
Yeah, I said C tier. And my reasoning is that I think, well, you're right. There are some hyper-specific books. There are some that are pretty general. But it depends on which book you get. It depends on your starting skill level. It really depends. So I don't think it's going to get you your first job, though.
No. Yeah.
No.
And some people are book people, right? And some people really love to just sit down and can go through like a Harry Potter book in like a day. And I'm like, how did you read The Goblet of Fire in a day? I don't understand. So if you can do that, great. Other people, it takes them months just to read through, a few hundred pages of a book. So
Right.
some of this material can get dense. So
Yeah. Especially you were mentioning practical malware analysis. That's a hefty book. I hope they come out with a new one soon.
Yeah. I've got like a lot of No Starch books over there, and I go over and reference the material. So books are great for later, I think, especially they keep adding value over time. But
Yeah.
getting into InfoSec, you're not going to get it from a book.
Okay. Next topic, CTFs.
CTFs. This is one of those interesting things. I think all of these will probably be interesting, but this one is interesting because I think CTFs are great attractors to the InfoSec world. I think hacking overall and kind of drawing people into passion, I think CTFs, I think if you're the kind of a person who practices or goes and gets into CTFs, you're probably doing a lot of other things that are CTF adjacent that are probably helping you get into InfoSec more. So I think this is more adjacent to the stuff that gets you into InfoSec, but just doing some CTFs probably will not get you into InfoSec. It's probably a decent thing. You are going to have to learn while you're doing the contest. Sometimes contests have like what I would say the hello world of each kind of category of issue, whether it's a steganography or reverse engineering or just straight up going and breaking into a system. There is kind of the, let's hold your hand through this a little bit, but then sometimes the challenges can really just ramp up. Also, they're usually not real worlds. They're usually in the mind of the demented CTF organizer. You just have to know the references and things that person's going to do to solve the puzzle, and they're not always so straightforward. So getting into a corporate job or something like that, that's not always going to be there. Not every CTF's the same. I think I'd rate it a C.
Okay. I thought they are more helpful than you're saying, like Pico CTF and CTF Gym are really helpful for people who are just starting out and need to know the basics, but I don't think they're good for getting an InfoSec. I've seen people put them on their resume. I've seen other uses of it, but you're right. It's more of a gotcha.
Yeah, I do think, though, from resume value, I do like seeing participation of some kind. CTF is one of those ways in which you can participate in the community. And to me, that shows passion. This isn't just a job for you. This is also a hobby. This is something you're interested in. We also need people who aren't, doing this as a full-on passion and things they do in their personal life too. But I will say it does kind of help and set you apart from someone. You're taking an extra effort to, play and compete and do things. Again, it's one of those, this is adjacent to the things that might get you better into InfoSec than just that alone. But it's not a bad resume. I have 3 CTFs that I ranked in on my resume. So, and those go even back to like 2015 and 2016. So
yeah,
it's been a while.
I have a CTF I'm proud of. I just don't put it on my resume, but my resume is pretty something anyway. Okay, cool beans. By the way, I would give it a D.
You'd give it a D. Okay, I'm more generous in this one.
Yeah, and that's, I know we talked earlier, and that's not the case. Most often.
Yeah, most of them's not going to be the case. Although maybe I've changed my mind the more I've drunk this orange juice.
There's a bit of sunshine in this glass. Okay, so our next one is joining a Discord.
Yeah. So back in the day, and it was honestly back in my day, was the end of these days. I feel. IRC channels, those still exist, and some people will be like, yeah, they're called Slack, because Slack used to or still runs off the IRC protocol. But you would join an IRC channel, and you'd join an IRC server, usually run by hackers, and you would join in CTFs, you join in discussions on topics, and it was kind of this cool way of kind of feeling like you're in the underground almost. And it definitely got you the ability to meet people and talk to people. I've known people who literally just met on IRC like 20 years ago, and then 5 years ago just met each other at DEF CON or something. And it's just like, oh my God, it's you, and those are cool things. Now we have Discord and we have other things. Well, Twitter also kind of took over more of a social media, like more publicly open aspect of that. And now that Twitter's pretty much gone,
It's dead.
now we have Discord, which kind of brings us back to that IRC community, moderated content, things like that. Discord, I think, is good. You have a lot of groups out there that focus on mentorship, that focus on training, focus on particular topics, whether it's a CTF, a particular certification, particular skill sets, and we'll even go through and do contests or do puzzles or do little workshops. And so it's really good to find that. Now, watch out, I would say, for toxic behaviors and things like that. Do not tolerate people being jerks and complete assholes. I will say that on my channel. I'm not paid or monetized. Oh, no, I'm going to get demonetized from nothing.
I think you can say asshole.
I think we could say asshole.
Yeah.
But, you will have toxic behaviors sometimes on Discords. It's a community. Some people are not going to like each other. But overall, I think, you can find some really good Discord servers out there and get good participation. And again, that opens up the door, honestly, to a lot of the other things on this list, whether it's a CTF or whether you're talking about preparing preparing for a certification or just any other thing, Discords can really kind of be that gateway to a lot of those other areas, much like IRC used to be. I would give Discords honestly a B.
Okay. For a lot of the same reason, I'd say B. The only thing I'd say with Discords is you have to be mindful of where you got your invite. Some servers are meant to die. They were like, they got it, maybe too many people or something, and then they didn't produce any content, or maybe it's a really big server and it's just people asking, hey, can you hack my ex's Facebook for me? So it depends on the server, I guess is what I'm saying. But I also give it a B.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah. Okay. Our next one, installing Kali. How does that get you into InfoSec?
So this is a meme kind of that I've just more learned about. I was like, well, installing Kali could teach you a lot, as far as red teaming or even just, analysis of things. It's another one of those gateways. But there are a lot of people who, for some reason, feel, I guess, that just installing an operating system all of a sudden makes you in InfoSec, or that you're an expert, or that, and maybe 10, 15 years ago when we had Backtrack instead of Kali, and there's a lot of other distros out there too, besides just Kali. Honestly, that kind of did take a little bit of expertise. It wasn't actually so user-friendly. And so just running it was kind of more applaudable than nowadays.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I if you're just expecting that you installed Kali and now you can, go apply to a InfoSec job role or something, no. Kali is a series of tools, but it is kind of a tool belt in and of itself. It's how you use that, and it's the stuff you do with that that's going to more so get you into InfoSec. So are you going to use it in CTFs? Are you going to use it in other things? Well, those are the things that get you closer to getting into InfoSec. Just installing Kali, that's maybe even F tier, but I'd say definitely a D tier. But hey, it's the start of something good.
I also agree it's a set of tools. I find it like when people install Kali, they're getting their basics, they're eating their healthy meal, and then you have the vegans who are like, I only install Black Arch. So it depends on how you look at it. I'm going to give installing Kali a D tier.
Very cool.
All right, our next one is having a non-InfoSec entry-level job.
Yeah, so this is the thing with experience. Security is, there's a lot of debates as to where security really is and everything. Security is part of IT. I mean, it really is at this point. Yeah, InfoSec, there's probably some non-IT things that go into InfoSec. Technically, you could say GRC is more IT adjacent or something like that. Risk is more at the enterprise level. So there's a lot more going on than stuff that's on technology. I point to my computer that you can totally see right over here. But it's adjacent to all of those things. So I'd say getting some kind of like help desk job, maybe, your first sysadmin job or network admin job, something like that. Or maybe your software development more on the heavy side there. So you're web dev or DevOps or something like that. Maybe cloud engineer, identity access management. You're just provisioning people's accounts and things. Those are all good starts, and those teach you a lot more about how IT works, how technology works, how security plays a role in that particular position, and kind of gives you a pivot point within a company, or it gives you experience that can give another employer confidence that you then can take these skills you've learned in InfoSec domains and to bring them over there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's honestly what a lot of people have hesitation to pulling the trigger on somebody who maybe they've done CTFs or maybe they've done some of these other things that we're listing here. But man, I just don't see that experience in IT. And I just don't know if you understand what we're trying to accomplish, our process. But if you've got a year, maybe even 2 years in an entry-level IT job, now you've got something. You've got context. You've got a set of vocabulary even that really goes. So that, honestly, I think can be A tier.
Nice. Especially IT-related jobs. like yield, customer service center. These jobs not only teach you like the skills you need professionally, but also could be your first introduction to Active Directory,
Yes.
IAM, like basic security policies. They all come from IT. So I'm actually giving this an S tier.
S tier.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think getting a non-infosec related job first is like way up there.
And hey, you know what? We always say InfoSec is everybody's job. So technically, you might actually be doing InfoSec. So you may be there in your own right. And I will say that's how a lot of people got in. It's how I got in.
Yeah.
Right. I started out the help desk. Kind of became the de facto network administrator. I think that was about 3 years that I was doing that. And then once I graduated from community college, which that probably segues into another thing we will talk about, I had an opportunity at that community college's information security department to have an entry level role there. So that gave them the confidence that I knew that there was probably something else that helped me there too. But no doubt some of the other things we've listed on here helped me get in. I think it kind of gave me an all well-rounded. I don't think anything's a silver bullet in this list for sure, even the S tier.
Yeah.
But I think S tier, meaning kind of like, yeah, you're basically right there or
Yeah.
just about to get in. I would agree. I would say A, maybe S tier. But
Yeah.
that's interesting. S tier.
Yeah, S tier doesn't mean silver bullet. I just think it's one of the best options.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't
absolutely.
realize we both worked in university IT.
Well, technically community college.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. College, I don't care.
Academia of some kind.
I'm not pretentious, but let's just go into that subject again then. So school, using
Yeah.
school, whether it be a associates or bachelor's or whatever.
Yeah. Do not begrudge people their associate's degrees. I've been 10 years now in InfoSec itself, and I got a pretty high ranking job these days, and I've just got an associate's degrees, and right now no plans to get a bachelor's, master's, or anything. Maybe just some certs, but school, it's your mileage and dollar amount is going to vary. Return on investment, soul crushing debt, all these things kind of play in. Is it really worth soul crushing debt to go to a research, university versus your local community college or, in some way and get that? But at a research university or something more prestigious, maybe, a lot of times the value you're going to get out of there is placement and networking and internships and things like that, right? From a community college perspective, a little harder to get that. And so I think school definitely matters from different ones and may have pluses and minuses that go with them. I think community college, if I'm thinking about community college, I think school gives you a lot of the well-roundedness, but it also checks that freaking box for HR a lot more and is going to grease that axle to roll you in there. So for bang for buck, I would say community college kind of gets you more C, maybe B tier. As you start going to university, your mileage is going to vary. There's a lot of people who come out from university with soul crushing debt expecting to make 120K in the Midwest. And it's like, it's not going to be your first role. Maybe if you're in Seattle or down in Silicon Valley, 120K is going to be an entry level, job. Maybe you had a couple internships, but don't expect fresh out of college you're going to get some really sick InfoSec job and everything there. You might have to still go to a more entry-level IT job and then bide your time for a year, maybe two, and then roll yourself over to an InfoSec role. So I would say maybe C. It might go as far as B tier, but I'd put it as a C to B. I don't know where I'd want to put it right now.
So I'm obviously biased, right? I spent a lot of time in school. Don't tell my secret. And I've done everything from like being a wee little undergrad to being a PhD student, like doing a teaching assistant stuff. And so mine is actually going to fluctuate pretty wildly. There are people with IT degrees, like we're talking bachelor's, maybe master's, who cannot do anything for themselves. They either like stole group members' work or because a lot of it is group based, which has to happen in IT because there's so many labs.
Yeah. Can never do it yourself.
No. There are people who copy off of the work, or maybe all of the work was leaked online. So your mileage varies a lot. It really is what you put into it. So if you put in like good work to school and you have things to talk about, like your labs or introductions in interviews, like tell me about projects you've done, background, what you do, what you get out of school, what you read, how much you actually put in effort to learning tools, like, so school can be way up here, especially when you consider like the name of your school, like you were kind of saying.
Yeah.
There are companies who are like, I only want students from XYZ university, which happens. So I think school can be as high as an A, and for some of you, as low as a D.
Yeah. I knew actually a PhD grad who couldn't tell me what Ping did.
Wow.
And their PhD was in InfoSec. And I was like, can you tell me a tool you would use to determine if a host is up on the network? Traceroute or Ping are very good options here.
Yeah.
And nope, didn't get either one. Just went like, oh, I'd go to like the AV, system. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess you could look it up in the AV system or the endpoint management system and things like, what if the person who manages all that is out to lunch and you need to know right now? Like,
Yeah.
what would you do? And it's just like, this is help desk again, coming from the help desk. It's like, oh, I can't get to this. Oh, Ping. Oh, I can get to it. And it's just some basic troubleshooting, right? And I was just like, you're a PhD.
Yeah.
You don't know what Ping is.
Yeah.
That is a problem. And this was a prestigious PhD too. And
Oh,
it was
trust
just
me.
Very, like I said, mileage will vary. And again, community college can be, not everybody, but a lot of people can be very impressive.
Yeah.
So it's all what you put into it. In fact, when I actually spoke at my graduation from my community college, and that's kind of what I said into it. It's like, you're going to get out of this what you put into it. And what this piece of paper is what you're going to do with it. And, so there's a lot of things we learned while we went through all this. And, you can just let this piece of paper be a piece of paper and that's all it does. Or you can go off and, take the things you learned here and do something great with it. So, and that's all about what you put into it. If you don't put anything into it, then you don't really have much but a piece of paper to show for it.
Yeah. And I hope I can say this on your channel, but some people just wipe their ass with that piece of paper.
Yes, they do.
So that's definitely how that goes. Okay. I could talk about school all day, actually. But as a former academic, I think I'm really biased in that opinion. So, okay. The next one we're going to do is mentorship.
Okay.
Getting a good mentor, having someone to like bounce ideas off of, stuff like that.
Right. And that should be kind of contrasted or compared to coaching, right? Where a coach is actually someone you might pay. Someone who basically sets you on a path and is going to drive you and kind of engage you. Whereas a mentorship is really the mentee is more the person kind of leading the engagement after kind of a relationship starts. They're reaching out to the mentor and saying, hey, can you help me think through this? Can you tell me or get me started with learning this thing that I'm having trouble with? Do you know anybody I could talk to? Network, right? Mentorships are great ways to then gain access to their network. And they're going to, oh, let me tell you about this person. They can actually tell you everything you want to know about this. So mentorships are good guides. They know what good looks like. Well, at least better than you do, more than likely. And they can help you get to that level of good. So I think mentorships, kind of like almost Discord servers, right, is a gateway to a lot of things that can get you into InfoSec. And I think so having that mentor, they can steer you away from things that might waste your time. And they can steer you into things that you would never think of yourself to do. They can even steer you into career opportunities you didn't know existed or thought how that skill could translate to all these different things. Someone was asking me actually one time about forensics, and they thought, it's just law enforcement is all I can work for. I'm like, no. There's a lot of other things that people need forensics for, or the things that you learn in forensics. Those are translatable skills over here. And so that made them think, and those are the types of things you get from mentorship. So I think mentorship, honestly, definitely a solid B. I think an A.
Okay.
is where you can really go with it.
Cool. As someone who mentors individuals going for their Security Plus exam and completing their work or whatever, their projects, I'm biased. I want to say mentorship is S tier. You need me right now. Hit me up, you know? But no. I'm going to say B or A.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Somewhere B, A minus. I know we're not doing pluses and minuses.
No pluses and minuses here.
No.
This isn't Pokemon. We don't have that many.
Yeah.
We don't have that many little incrementals.
Yeah, so if I have to settle on one, I'm going to settle on B.
Okay.
Yeah, B tier. Okay. YouTube and live streams, like Twitch live streams, YouTube's. I know I said that plural when it's not plural. Stuff like that.
Yeah. So I run a YouTube channel, so F tier. You know, like you're not gonna get into InfoSec watching Glass of OJ. I'll tell you that right now. You're not gonna get into it.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure you're not gonna get into InfoSec having watched Glass of OJ. I might point you into some different interesting directions. Channels like mine are probably part of the mix, and we'll probably talk about that close. I know I'm going to talk about it close to the end of this episode, talking about you need a mix of probably a lot of these to really get yourself into there. And I think YouTube channels have their place. You get YouTube channels like mine where we're just kind of more talking about topics. We're not really deep diving into the tech. We're not going really concept by concept, although I do have about 28 different concept ideas I need to do breakdowns on. So some of my episodes, in the future may go into more like kind of like a CBT training, more conceptual, and not necessarily deep down into the tech, command prompt and click by click adventures through firewalls and other things like that. You also get YouTube channels that are kind of voiceless, and maybe they have Notepad up and they type some stuff, and then they're basically just showing you how to do some steps. I find that those channels aren't that valuable. It's valuable if I want to know that actual one thing, but it's not good if I want to know why we do it that way or what's actually going on. A tutorial on how to do this, okay, fine, but that's a reproduction of steps, not a here's why we do this. I'm not learning really anything. Whereas if you go to something like IPSEC, NAHAMSEC, there's several other types of, a lot of them all have sec in their name, don't they?
Yeah.
But they, NAHAMSEC, IPSEC, that's IPP, SEC, they will walk through the tools they use, especially if they're on Hack the Box or something else. They're walking you through, here's how I did this, here's why I use these tools, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. They're going to walk you through methodology. And as they're walking you through that, you're now learning, here's how I need to think about this, or here's a way to think about this. They're giving you mental tools as well as literal technical tools to start using on your own. And so I think those can work. There's also things like Professor Messer that are just going to simply take you through labs and show you how and explain to you why things work the way they do. So it is all over the place, almost like school and college, right? It could go all the way from A or B tier all the way down to D tier. I think it's a solid C. It's going to be average. It's going to just depend on what you go to and what you gravitate towards. And then you've got a lot of YouTube channels that talk a lot about how to get into InfoSec, and if you were to read those folks' resumes, they maybe just got their first job in InfoSec a year ago. And it's like, maybe you shouldn't be talking on this quite yet, because some of the stuff you're saying is not quite there.
When looking at people's resumes, you know what I also don't trust? And this is controversial. This is like not an agreed upon opinion. This is an Alyssa hot take. This is an Alyssa hot take. When people are changing jobs every 12 to 18 months consistently, they can't hold down a job, big red flag. I don't want to hear how you got into InfoSec, because you can't stay in InfoSec. What's the point? You might be able to get in. You can't make it work.
So sometimes people are contract.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean the ones that are hired full-time FTE, who maybe even stay there 6 months.
Yeah. a blip. I was at my previous employer 6 months.
Yeah.
You know,
But that was
it was a blip.
Yeah, it was,
compared
yeah.
to I usually had 2, 3, and 4 years.
Yeah.
Throughout, but I generally like to change my job every 3 or so years.
Yeah.
So.
I will let you know I'm not that person, but that's why it's an Alyssa hot take. It's not like an everyone hot take.
No, I think it's something to. I think when you go and talk to people's experience, you need to ask them, right? And I think that's something to ask. And if someone's been at some place for 10 years, so what all have you done in that 10 years there? Have you just done the same task over and over? Are you basically, are you a dinosaur? Or have you been constantly keeping up and making changes and moving around in the organization? You really had like 10 roles here. And every other year you were going to doing something different. That can be great. You have one company, but like 6 different roles there. To me, that's different jobs.
Yeah.
Even if it's the same company.
Yeah, I did that.
So, yeah.
I did that at RSA.
Yeah.
That was a lot of different jobs.
So there we go.
Okay, so my tier 4 is a C.
There we go.
Okay.
Hey, look at that. We agree.
Okay, so the next two we're going to compare and contrast a little bit. So just be ready for that. First one, Hack the Box.
So Hack the Box specifically. We're not talking about any
Hack the
other...
Box
okay.
specifically.
Hack the Box specifically. If it was the very first thing you grabbed, you're probably not going to have a good time. I think it can work. And again, the Hack the Box is mostly geared towards red team. And so understand where that limits you as far as your overall InfoSec knowledge. But if you're just trying to mess around, you're going to need to do some of the other stuff we've talked about. Be probably on a Discord. Do some group work there. It's not something necessarily to solo study. You could Google around. You could really probably Google around and do it, but it's going to be the thing that you've got to be great at self-study. You've got to be great, and this provides you that challenge to really try to apply things. I recommend if you're going to do that, go look at walkthroughs. And go look at IPSEC, YouTube channels. There is no shame in looking up a walkthrough on a video game even, but there's no shame in looking up a walkthrough on this thing you're trying to learn. So look up and see another person's solution on this. Some of these write-ups are fantastic. They tell you why they're doing what they're doing. Some of them just show you the steps. Say, I ran this command, I ran that command, and I got root. What did we learn? Probably not much, except maybe how to run a command.
Yeah.
You learn something, but then after 5 or 6 of those, you don't really learn much. So it's one of those things where I'd probably put it to C to D tier.
Okay. Cool. I'll tell you mine here in a second. The next one that it always gets compared to, Try Hack Me.
Yeah. So I think we've definitely got a big upgrade here. Try Hack Me, and the reason why Try Hack Me and Hack the Box are different. Try Hack Me is a lot more path-based now. And they not only deal in red team stuff, they also deal in blue team stuff. In fact, one of the things I do for my internship program where I'm at is the person coming in, I have them walk through the SOC Analyst 1 path from Try Hack Me. And we don't do everything, but I say, here's the modules I want you to go through and learn. And it gives you that ability to lab up and work in that environment. It teaches you what you're doing and why you're doing it a certain way. You can play around and do other things in it. But again, it gives you a little bit of that replacement for what you would have in like a college for hands-on labs and hands-on training. So it gets you that start. So I think definitely Try Hack Me is more close to like a C, B tier.
I gave Hack the Box a C, although now looking at it, probably a D. I just don't think, unless you're using walkthroughs, which I know you said aren't bad, but unless you're using walkthroughs, it is not user-friendly for the first-time person. Like, they don't know what to do there. So, but Try Hack Me walks you through it. So I'm going to give Try Hack Me a B. Okay. Some more fun ones. We're biased in this next one.
Very much biased.
We're biased. Maybe don't listen to our opinion on this next one, but going to conferences.
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely this one is another one I can check off my list of, yep, did this, and I think it helped me get into InfoSec. So it's definitely above C for me. So the whole idea of conferences, and now there's so many conferences, especially on the hacker side. I don't think I get a lot from vendor conferences or the more professional conferences, unless there's like training to it.
What are the salespeople trying to smooze you with steak dinners?
Exactly. It's a great way to get a steak dinner,
Yeah.
But not necessarily there. Although I will say some of the vendors, like it may be a good networking to, if you want to get into your favorite vendor and get hired or something like that. A lot of times people are hiring at conferences, right? So
Yeah, actually.
that's an interesting aspect of it. A lot of conferences also have resume villages
Yeah.
and other types of mentorship workshops and things like that. So different conferences provide different, materials of value for people. But a lot of times conferences at their very base introduce you to people who hopefully think differently. People who are a mix of they're veterans. They've been here around 30 and 40 years. There's people who have been here literally. They're your peers. They're also trying to break in. So now you have study groups that you can start, maybe pairing up with. You have people who have been there for 10 years, and now they can help you start on your journey to getting where you are, if that's kind of somewhere in the career you want to be. You can find mentors. You can go to talks. There's talks that are entry level, if you will, talks of here's how this works, and here's what we're doing over here. There's talks that are more advanced, but even the more advanced talks, you can kind of listen to and watch and kind of go, and you're starting to pick something up from it.
Yeah.
There's contests usually at conferences, especially hacker conferences. When we talk about cons, we mean hacker cons. Usually there's shenanigans and there's puzzles and there's things to engage in. You're going to learn a lot of the tools that you would use otherwise and start getting that mindset going. And that's the thing a lot with hacking is a lot of it's a mindset of how you think. And getting to scratch that itch or even find that you have the itch to begin with can be very helpful. And so I think cons, again, are another one of those great gateways to a lot of different things. And a lot of cons have Discords. So it pairs into that. So there's a lot of resources there. Cons themselves, at least a B, depending on which con you go to, could probably be an A tier. I don't think DEF CON's it anymore. Although it's fun to go to, I think. I think something like a B-Sides Las Vegas or a Cactus Con, especially their greenhouse, right? I love their greenhouse. There's several other conferences out there that exist and can give you a good. Actually, CypherCon was good, I think, for entry-level people too. They had a lot of interesting villages to tickle different fancies you might have with technology and learn it. They're going to teach you how to use it. So I'd say B minimum, but could be an A depending on the type of learner you are. If you're an introvert, though, I will tell you, conferences may not be the thing that gets you into InfoSec.
Maybe though, there are other introverts there.
There's true. A lot of us are introverts in there. I'm extroverted until I need to recharge, and I got to be by myself. So many people. I mean, we ran a conference. I heard many times people say, I got my job at your conference.
Yep.
And so that's why I say it's above C for me. It's definitely B, could be A, depending on which conference you go to. But definitely something that I think have in the belt. So I'd say a solid B for sure.
You know what I realized when you were talking earlier? I'm at current employer because current employer was a vendor at ThoughtCon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at ThoughtCon. I was getting ready for my talk. They were right across from the main hallway. And originally I went to them thinking, oh, my students would love this. Like, let me find opportunities for my students. Took the card from the recruiter. Didn't realize that a month later I was going to be applying. And I got current job from the career person at that conference. So there's that. I have also heard many a person say I've got my job because of our conference. Yep. So I've heard that as well. I will say for conferences like DEF CON, super fun to go. It's like hacker reunion, okay?
Yes.
But are you going to learn stuff and find a job? I'm not sure. If there's a guy hiring off a drinking contest, like, yes.
Right.
Yeah, you're in a good spot. But is it a place for like professional development? I don't think so.
I think it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge, overwhelming thing. And it's almost like asking someone to go to AWS, whatever their big conference is, to become an expert in AWS.
Yeah.
It's like, focus on one thing. If you do go to DEF CON, and Hacker Summer Camp is coming up, so if you do go to DEF CON, look ahead to see what villages are there. A lot of villages are almost cons unto themselves. Little mini cons. They've got a speaker track. They've got contests. They've got workshops. They've got chill out space. Like, they've got the whole shebang. You can go to a Blue Team Con if you're interested in Blue Team stuff. You can go to Red Team Con, and that's all at DEF CON. They have their own little villages, and you can learn those things, and they can probably get you on your way there. Now, I will say DEF CON is expensive.
Yes, it is.
And so you'll have to, kind of, again, pair that. And traveling is expensive. So, but yeah, you're gonna focus in on that one thing while you're there.
The RF village, the wireless village. Yeah. Bias
Yep.
would show up.
Yep.
Bias would show up. Okay. We only have a couple left, and then we're going to get into our honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So the next one is certifications and boot camps.
Yeah. So, again, this is a piece of paper, and I'm seeing on a lot of job descriptions, and we should probably actually do a class of OJ where I just go through several job descriptions, hopefully curated by our lovely viewers, that are just absolute bullshit. And you cannot, there's no one is the unicorn for this job description, or just crazy. CISSPs for entry-level work, right? That's the classic one we see now. But a lot of times having some piece of paper, whether it's a college degree or it's a certification or multiple certifications, can definitely grease the axles to get HR to go, okay, and pass you on to the next level. Some certifications are different than others, especially in the same area. Pentest Plus is not the same as CEH, and that's not the same as
The OSCP.
the OSCP. Especially those last two compared to OSCP by a long shot. Although if you had to choose between CEH and Pentest Plus, I'd pick Pentest Plus due to ethical issues with CEH, the EC Council. Certifications and boot camps. It's just, there's just so much that can go on there. SANS is super expensive. Expect to spend at least $10,000 in travel and the event itself to get trained. The training itself is like $8,000. Unless your company's paying for it, you're probably not going to pay for it yourself. Again, that's just going to be kind of focused on one topic too. So certifications, I think there are definitely certain certifications that get you started. The very well tested. Many people have tested in it, and it's been tested. Anyway, bad. I don't know. I found that funny. Security Plus is still kind of the hallmark of, hey, go and get that first. It is your vocabulary. It is here's how these things kind of go together. It is, again, a great gateway to getting into and understanding what we're talking about. How are the different domains play together? And I think it gives you that conversational ability to talk to other people now about InfoSec things. And so I think Security Plus is definitely one of those certs that can do that. You can also take the CISSP and just not qualify for the 5-year thing. Definitely more grueling than Security Plus. Now, will those give you essentially your first job? I had a Security Plus when I got my first job.
Nice.
So I think, again, it helped. So I would definitely put certifications closer to a B tier or maybe even A tier. But I would say definitely a solid B.
Okay. Again, I'm biased because I help people get their Security Plus with the whole purpose of finding a job. There are other like mini projects and things like that, but it's centered around the Security Plus as their credential to get a job. So I am biased toward it. I'm going to give it an A. just because I've seen results, right? I've helped people get those first jobs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Okay, getting a little spicy.
Oh,
Okay, this happens, and we're not going to name any names.
no names.
We know names, we know them, but we're not saying anything. Lying your way in.
S tier.
Talk about it.
Only S tier because it does work. It will get you a job if you lie about your experience and you lie about things you know, and you just get someone to help you just pass an interview to get the job, and then you're going to try to Google it the rest of the way. And I'm not talking about faking it till you make it, or this kind of, you know a lot, but maybe you just don't know that one little esoteric or very arcane thing, and you need to go Google it. We all need to do that. We're all Googling all the time. If you're not Googling, you're worse than someone who doesn't know anything.
Well, DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, or DuckDuckGo, right?
Yeah.
You need to be able to do some good searching out there. But I will say, there are a lot of people who just straight up lie their way through interviews. They straight up lie. They will even go so far in their dishonesty as to have somebody else not affiliated with that company do the work for them, and then they pass it in with their name on it. So not only are they frauds, but also they've breached your security policy by, giving them intel on your organization, and then now you're passing back in work from them. And so, yeah, S tier in that it can get you a job, and it can be a very short path to getting there. And some people can stay in this industry surprisingly long, and not because a lot of us are professionals. We don't call them out. We're not going to be that way. But they still get around and do a lot in the InfoSec world, even though they really don't know anything at all. And what it does is it sucks for everybody else who's going to school and going to cons and doing Try Hack Me, watching YouTube videos, getting certs, doing all the things they need to, and still can't freaking find the job because that jerk just lied about everything and got in. And that's why it's S tier. But honestly, it's F tier.
Yeah, I don't know what to rank this one. That's really hard because you're right, it does work. I know people with master's degrees who can't set a static IP on a host by themselves.
Right, exactly.
That hurts. It hurts me. It hurts my soul. So they just lie about everything. Like, yeah, I did this when really it was other people.
The most gatekeeping I really think I do. It's
Yeah.
like, come on, like there are some basics you just have to know.
Is it gatekeeping if you're just trying to keep
The qualifications, like you need to be
Yeah.
qualified, you need to know something, and you need to be honest.
Is
Like,
honesty gatekeeping?
right? Yeah. I'm gatekeeping on honesty at all times. Absolutely,
I don't think honesty is gatekeeping.
it's not.
So on one hand, it's totally S tier because it works.
Yep.
It works, and you get paid really well.
You can,
And
absolutely.
you can get your own shows and like lots of likes on Instagram, and like big deal. Big things can happen to you if you just lie about it. But I couldn't live with myself like that, so I'm gonna say F tier.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
agree.
say
It belongs in the F.
yeah, hard F. Okay, let's talk about some honorable mentions.
Sure.
Okay. What about letting AI do it for you?
This is happening way more often now.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard of people who have been interviewed or have been interviewing people, and pretty sure they were typing into an AI, and then AI was spitting back a bunch of stuff, and they were just basically reading the AI prompt. Have seen that. Have seen AI write people's pen test reports. That's happening out there. Writing scripts for things that you don't really know what it is. You just punch it in and then run it and say, like, look at that, I know how to do this, right? This is going to be the installing Kali. Installing Kali is better to me, honestly, than just using AI for everything. AI is a fantastic tool, but you got to know what good looks like.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that really makes AI different from a lot of the other things we're talking about. You have to know what good looks like in order to know that you have selected the right option from AI, because they're hallucinating.
Yeah.
And they're coming up with all kinds of things. When they go and write legal opinions or legal things, they make up case law. They make up cases that don't exist. And the judge looks at it and, it might pass through and be like, oh, okay, that's in that case. But if a clerk's being really good, they're like, okay, that doesn't exist. What the heck happened here? The same can happen in InfoSec. It can make up statistics. There's all kinds of things AI can do. So AI definitely has a role in your journey, I think. I think AI can help you probably accelerate some of your learning today in ways that you couldn't, especially when you don't know what questions to ask, or maybe you don't have somebody to ask a question to. You might be able to ask AI things, but it still is tough because you have to know what that good looks like. You can't just copy pasta from an AI. Just honorable mention, not going to necessarily give a rank. I think your mileage can greatly vary. It's a tool to be used, but it's going to get a lot of abuse out there.
Okay. So last one before we wrap up. Last honorable mention is joining the armed forces, aka the military, aka whatever branch you want, aka not Space Force.
Not Space Force. And this is interesting, right? The military, especially since actually today is Memorial Day, the day we're recording it, right? Memorial Day, by the way, for those who don't know, Memorial Day is for those who gave the greatest sacrifice of their lives in the line of duty, versus Veterans Day, which is to recognize all who have served. Don't go thinking you're veterans who are still walking the earth today. Go and
thank them anyway.
Thank them anyway, but on this day, they're not going to really feel appreciated today. They want to appreciate, and that's the thing too, is they also want to appreciate those who have given their lives in sacrifice. But that's the thing you need to realize, is that going into, cybersecurity or InfoSec at a military level is very different than going into at a corporate level. Maybe it's closer to law enforcement, because that's also paramilitary. But these things are very different. And so if you're going to go into the military, and you actually do want a military career, then fantastic. Military, they're going to teach you everything you need to know. They are literally going to just walk you through the whole thing. They're going to provide you structure. They tell you when to eat. They tell you when to compile. They tell you when to kick off a scan. They tell you when to do all the things, standing orders and all that. Adjusting from the military to corporate, and I've seen people try to do it, it can vary. Some people who adjust really well, and they just do their tour, they get their education, they get their skills, and they walk out and they can immediately start translating into the corporate world. There are some people who they gotta have that structure or else they just can't succeed. And that's just, when you change your entire life to be in the military, it's very different than even just going to school for 4 years of your life. That is its own structure, but it's a lot more loosey-goosey. In the military, you're doing this and nothing more unless you're told otherwise. Hurry up and wait. All those kinds of things. Again, military, if you're going to do a career for it, I think, honestly, the only way to go is to go into the military then. I would not make it my first choice, personally. And again, kind of Futurama, they wanted like free bubble gum or something like that from a thing. It's like, oh, well, we offer a military discount. So they go to a military recruitment center to be like, yeah, well, we can get out of the military anytime we want, right? It's like, yep, unless war were declared. And then after they sign, as siren starts going off, it's like, what's that siren mean? War were declared. And so, you're not, when you are going into the military, you're not just, even in InfoSec or cybersecurity, right? You're not just moving bits and bytes around. You are, potentially going into war zones. You are going into places where you will cause others harm, and that's the point. And you will, harm will be caused to you by others, and that's their point. And so for some people, that is going to be, something honorable, a great part of their life, and they get to learn something that they want to bring, outside into civilian life. And so I think for those types of people, it could work really well. If you want to go into the military and spend a career in cyber command, Absolutely. That's the best way to do it. Just go right in and let them teach you all the things. But would definitely not be on my list, and that's why I'm not really wanting to give it a tier ranking at all.
Okay, we don't have to give a tier ranking. Is there anything else though that you're like, wow, I wish I could have ranked that?
Oh man, I don't think so. I think we covered quite a few things, except I guess another honorable mention that would be honestly S tier is just privilege. Knowing the right people. There's a lot of luck that goes into getting hired. Looking like the default, right? Talking like the default, having a male sounding name. There's like all kinds of things that you don't get to control about your life, including your economic position, socioeconomic position. That goes into whether you can get a job or not in InfoSec. People who look like me a little bit more probably get into InfoSec a lot easier than not. Would be my guess. And so you're more likely to be offered a job and not questioned. Are you really an expert? Do you really know what that means? Or did you just read that on Twitter one day and you're just repeating that? There's more benefits of doubts. There's more assuming that you know something. And also if you're rich, you're probably connected to a lot of owners of companies or partners at companies. And so, hey, I've got a job. Why don't I know Bill's kid. Let me get her over here and into an internship position or an entry level position. And there's all that kind of networking that just automatically comes to you. You don't have to do anything because it's kind of given to you. All the things we've mentioned here are things you actually do have to work at.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why I also don't bring that into this but it is something to call out here at the end is your privilege or lack thereof is going to impact how much more of these you're going to need to do in order to get into that first InfoSec role.
Okay. So what we've learned, lie.
That's right. Lie. Lie. Be rich.
Yeah, lie or be rich. That's a great way to get in. If that's not going to work from you, going to cons is a great idea.
Yep.
Non-InfoSec related entry level jobs. And then from me, I had mentorship and security boot camps or certs.
And an entry level IT job, right?
That's what I said.
There we go. So
Yeah.
I think those are great, and I think the core that we just ranked really high. I think those are the things you want to go for first, and a lot of those are going to be gateways to some of these other activities, and I think will help bind, and you'll find your way into what YouTube videos do you need to go, what types of CTFs or contests or activities should I be engaging in. What types of certification should I get? Like all these different things will kind of play together and will give you a much better chance of landing an InfoSec job and being ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Well, thanks for running my show today.
Yeah. Dude, I'd love to do it again. It's so fun.
Absolutely. Did you have something that we didn't rank today and you think are good honorable mentions at the very least? And do you disagree with any of these rankings? Did we rank something really low that you think actually ranks higher, or maybe vice versa? Maybe we think too much of some of these ideas and you think they're utter crap. Well, let us know on social media. Hit us up in the comments and we might see you in the next one, but I definitely will. See you.
Bye.